thing. It's you and
Are
the
you
pie.
saying?
Yeah.
Are you saying you want to sign up, Matt?
I just
he
wanted a
is.
free pie.
Is the pie the professor still going on, Mike?
No, we used to do that as a fundraiser, but
Uh-huh.
surprisingly, nobody
Not a
carries
lot of
any cash
sign-ups.
around, and
We got to get that Venmo
we've had
going.
lots of people say, "Well, can I Venmo?" And then I'll drop like $20 on tickets, and it just never really panned out, and so we decided we would just keep with the fun part of the event, which was the pie eating contest, and
We could probably
hand out a prize or something to the winner.
Yeah.
Nice.
So how many members do you have in SPS?
That varies. It depends. We have probably about 15 people that regularly come to our meetings, which makes it small. But whenever we have large, socials or events like that, we can get upwards of probably close to 50 people, I'd say, coming to some of the events. Our email list is a bit bloated, I'll admit, but yeah, just like regularly, probably up 15, 20 people.
Mm-hmm.
When it comes to bigger events, probably 50 to 60. Is that about right, Mike?
Yeah, and I mean everybody out there is so busy they
Yeah.
can't commit to coming to every single event or participating in every project. But if you can come to something during the semester, then we consider you to be an active member.
Well, I think that actually sounds like a really good turnout, to be honest.
Yeah,
I
no
mean,
kidding. Student engagement and
Yeah.
COVID happening.
Yeah,
And
and how busy, like you said, how busy everybody is with a demanding degree, and a lot of our students are involved in more than just one thing.
Yeah.
You're a great example. I mean, I just had a workshop and I had 0 students show up, so I get
You
it.
got to bring physics into it. I
Yeah,
guess.
obviously.
You didn't have food there, did you? That was
Nope.
no. Oh, yeah. That's also one of our things to do, is make sure that every social or event has some kind of food associated with it, because that brings people in, and then
Yeah, that's a staple of SPS, is always having food, whether it's donuts and coffee or, potlucks.
Mhm.
We always have
Yeah.
something. So.
Your potlucks are legendary. I've worked with students and they've talked about how good it is, like how there's always food. I think they mentioned like Connie brings food a lot, or yeah, the donuts and
we
coffee.
usually have too much food, and then we go out in the hall and we see if there's any other student
Any
or
takers.
I was like, "Hey, you hungry?" And they're like, "Yeah."
Mhm.
They come and finish off what we haven't eaten.
Yeah.
I can usually eat for a week off of leftovers.
Oh my gosh,
If nobody
that's
else
awesome.
wants it, I'll take it. Sure. So
But doesn't food like make that sense of community? You know
Mhm.
what I mean? How do you, so you're the president now.
Yeah.
So how did you get started in SPS, and how did that create like a sense of belonging for you on campus when you first got here, or what? Tell me more.
yeah, for sure. So during orientation my freshman year, so wow, 3 years ago now, I'll be graduating in May, which is just crazy to think.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Well, fingers crossed. I don't feel quantum or anything, but it was actually part of our orientation. Is we had the department. Everybody's split up to their departments. And
Yeah.
you go talk to department heads, some of the grad students, some of the other like mentee or mentors at the time, and they're like, well, you should join SPS. And I think Mike, you even came in and talked about it a little bit. You really pushed for it, and we push for it every year with all the incoming freshmen, like go to SPS, and we get some freshmen that always come each year, but that's kind of how I started. I was like, oh sure, as a freshman I didn't have a whole lot going on, I'll go to these meetings, what's the worst that could happen? And immediately like all the seniors just kind of like took me in, they're like, you're part of this now, you're going to help us all the projects. I'm like, okay, yeah, that sounds fun. So it was our pumpkin chunkin with building our trebuchet. That's what really kind of brought me in. That's how I kind of got that sense of belonging, because I was helping with the project, I was being I was contributing, I was helping, and they're helping me make friends and stuff like that.
Yeah.
That's how I really got into it, and I've just been part of SPS ever since, like, full-time hardcore, I guess. I was the historian, or like the PR, social media person my sophomore year, vice president last year as a junior, now I'm president this year.
Wow, so you've just been taking on a lot
I've
of
just-
leadership roles.
yeah.
Just climbing.
I've just been climbing the ladder ever since, yeah.
I feel like we should also mention that you look super sharp in your suit today.
Oh,
So
thank
you're
you
just
so much.
obviously going to be climbing a lot further as you go to graduate. So
I hope so.
Yeah. What's your favorite event
Oh.
for SPS?
So it used to be trebuchet until our trebuchet broke. It was great. Yeah, that's been an issue the past couple of years. We've been trying to make it work, but it just, I'd rather have it break and not hurt anybody than have it be at the competition and hurt somebody. So
yeah.
maybe it's a win. Besides that, I guess anything with a potluck, because it's like
I told you.
know, honestly,
community.
Like it seems like kind of a cop-out answer, but this is just kind of when you get to sit back, relax, eat, talk with fellow students, fellow professors, just be people. You're not a scientist in that case. You might talk about science, but you're not a scientist, a student, anything. You're just some person eating food with other people with similar interests, which is really fun.
It's like there's no agenda, and that kind of takes the pressure off of it. You can just be who you are and
it's a nice time to just unwind. So.
What about you, Mike? What's your favorite?
My favorite event?
Yes.
I don't know. It'd probably have to be one where I don't have to do a whole lot of work that goes into it. But I've always been kind of partial to the White Elephant gift exchange. So
my gosh, we got to hear about this.
So it happens right before finals in the fall. We do a little holiday party, and everybody brings in one gift. They wrap it. We put all the gifts on a table. People draw numbers. They go one at a time.
If they fit on
picking,
oh my gosh!
Oh wow!
Picking a gift to unwrap, and then at that point, every other person that comes up has the opportunity to pick another gift or to steal. And there's always one or two very coveted gifts that cause a lot of arguments.
Oh my gosh! And here's the story.
Some people get just the absolute worst gift, like a bag of pencils or something. And then we had one student that went dumpster diving outside of Chuck E. Cheese when they went out of business and brought a Chuck E. Cheese booth.
I was the winner of the Chuck E. Cheese booth.
Oh,
wow! During a blizzard after the White Elephant.
So you need to describe it for our listeners.
Yeah. So there's just this big blanket covering something at the front of the room, and like I knew what it was because the person told me. I'm like, I want that just for for fun. And we, like me and one other guy, we fought over it for about an hour. We'd be swapping gifts, and it always ended back to one of us. And eventually the other guy conceded. He's like, fine, have it. Take the Chuck E. Cheese bench. I'm like, yes. I was like, wait, I live in a dorm. So somehow we made it into Peterson Hall, and we got it in the doors by moving it, orient it in the correct way. And we got it into my dorm room, and there it sat until the end of the spring semester of 2021.
Oh my gosh.
It was actually pretty useful because I ended up breaking my leg a few weeks later. So I had to sleep. No. I had to sleep on the floor so I could use that to prop myself up.
Oh my god.
Because I couldn't be climbing up into the bunks or anything like that.
Oh sure.
So it ended up being a lot more useful than I thought it was going to be at first. But my roommates weren't in the dorm when I brought it back, and they came in. They're like, "Oh my god, Sam, what did you do now?" I'm like,
in your tiny dorm room.
So that was the centerpiece of our.
Well, but you had somewhere for guests to sit down.
Exactly. Yeah. They just might be facing the wrong way if the one side is full, but it worked out pretty well.
Sam, can you pull that picture up again?
Yeah, of course.
Is it? Okay, there we go. Yep, and it's a full size booth.
Yep.
It's got a vintage red and a vintage blue.
And beige. Lots of beige.
Yep.
Luckily, there was no gum underneath the seats or anything like that. We checked. It wasn't too. It was pretty pristine. Yeah, I'd say so.
So where is it now?
I
feel like this needs to be in the physics department or
It's actually a really sad and just boring ending to it. So all my roommates that were in that dorm that spring, we ended up moving into a house, but we didn't have space in the house for it, so we ended up just chucking
not
it.
True.
A dorm and then a house.
Yeah. Well, so
ran out of room in the house.
I'm going to say that with air quotes. Ran out of room. Nobody wanted to haul it to the house, and we didn't really have a way to transport it. So it ended up in the dumpster, which is pretty sad because I feel like it could have made its home in the
That's where it started.
Yeah. So I guess full circle, but it could have made its way in the physics department.
No, it started with a lot of snot-nosed kids sitting on it, and
only Matt can say that because he has children.
Yeah. I can imagine the things that bench has seen.
We made sure to wipe it down pretty well before we brought it in. So yeah, there's a layer of, we'll just say dirt on it. I don't know. I'll pretend it was dirt.
I feel like if I had to choose an activity, White Elephant sounds pretty awesome.
Yeah. And Mike, when did you get involved in SPS? How did you get involved in SPS?
Well, I was a student here myself through undergrad and grad school, and we had SPS in an unofficial capacity student orgs have to have at least 10 people in it. And back when I was an undergrad, we didn't even have like 10 people in the department. So we just had like informal meetings in our office because that's where we all were anyways. So we never really needed to be an official student org. But then after I came back full time as an instructor, we had about 4 times as many students, and the current advisor for the group was retiring, and they were looking for somebody else to take the reins. And I said, yeah, I'll do that, because I used to be a member, and I mean, we didn't really do anything except, like, you know, if there was a pizza party or something, it's like, hey, you want to go out for pizza? That was our pizza party, because it was such a small group. But the students were actually more gung-ho about it than I was. They had to essentially start from scratch with the petition to form a student org, the constitution, SOAP funding, all that kind of stuff. And so I was right there with them, learning the process. And you know, now that I've been doing it almost 10 years, it's not necessarily easier, just because we're doing so much more stuff now. So that's how I got involved.
So how many years is it now that you've been the advisor for SPS?
This will be starting in fall. It'll be 10 years.
Wow. So that's great. And so each year we collect placement numbers for students who graduate. And so when we define placement, it's you went on to graduate school, or you're working in a field of your study, a field related to your study, or, you know, for whatever reason, you're not looking for that opportunity. Maybe it's because you just want to go back and work on the family farm, whatever. And so we look at placement a couple different ways. We look at the overall placement. We look at placement for students who had undergraduate research, internship, or co-op experience. And then we also look at placement for students that were involved in at least one on-campus extracurricular activity. And for students that were involved in at least one on-campus extracurricular activity, their placement has consistently been 99-point-something%, varied all the way between 99.2 up to 99.6, versus the entire student body, which has consistently been between 96 and 98. If we break out students who were not involved in at least one extracurricular activity, it falls to like 80-something%. My question to both of you is why are we seeing a higher placement for students involved in at least one on-campus extracurricular activity?
Yeah, so I guess kind of the way I've had my whole idea of how college works, at least, these past 4 years, what I've kind of come to the realization of is it doesn't matter, because everybody here is going to graduate with roughly the same hard skills, whether it's, engineering, science, whatever. But it's kind of the soft skills, the leadership, the interpersonal skills that you learn by doing these kinds of things that's really going to make or break how you function as a team member or in a job or anywhere else in society, really, because you're always going to have to work with people no matter what, whether you're, like you said, on the family farm, in something related to, what your major was at grad school, wherever, you're working with people. And if you can build those skills in any way possible, whether it's, through extracurriculars, that's going to help you immensely, either getting a job or anything else. I guess that's kind of the way I've kind of seen it happen, I guess. So
I'll just kind of mirror that, because it all really boils down to the ability to communicate. And if you're part of a student organization where you're the ones that are taking care of everything, you're doing the self-governing, you're doing the fundraising, you're deciding on what projects you want to do. That's a collaborative effort. And when these employers come to the career fair, like Sam said, how do you filter out through a pile of 100 resumes where everybody pretty much has the same hard skill set? They want to know that who they're hiring has some people skills and is able to work on a team. And I hate to just call it another bullet point, but they want to see that kind of stuff on a resume, that you've actually been part of something that makes you work on a team. And even if the stuff that you've done didn't necessarily work out, sometimes having been through conflict and conflict resolution is also a very good thing that employers are looking for.
Yeah, and it sounds like that's, when you described a few of your meetings, that's what SPS is doing, is you're just networking, you're chatting with each other, you're working as part of a team for some of your events, you're rotate through who gets to be involved in those to make sure everybody has that opportunity to get up there and do that stuff. Yep, volunteering, community involvement.
Yeah, K through 12. I mean, being able to relate things in layman's terms, so like all different types of populations can understand.
Yeah, and I think I'd agree with you 100%. It's a resume booster, but I think it even goes beyond that, and I think that students who have those experiences interact better with employees and are more confident and better present themselves to get that, success builds success to get those opportunities.
Definitely.
So one of my questions for you guys is, when did you guys get passionate about, and I know this is kind of going back to like physics, but when did you guys become passionate about physics? How did you guys know you wanted to kind of go into this field?
Yeah, so this probably happened when I was like 9 or 10. I was in Barnes & Noble in Sioux Falls, South Dakota with my parents at the time, and my mom like pointed out this book. She's like, hey, this is like science stuff. You like science? And it was this like, I was like, oh yeah, cool. And it was like this little physics book. I can send you guys a picture of it later or something if you'd like. But it was just like, it took really fundamental and like actually like stuff I'm learning about now, like physics concepts, and broke it down for like, 9, 10-year-olds. And I just fell in love with that book. And I fell down the rabbit hole of Wikipedia pages, just sifting through all this information, trying to understand it as well as I could. And from that moment, I was like, I want to do something in science, and specifically physics, because it's just a physics book. And I thought it was just so cool. That, and like with the Sanford Underground Lab up in Lead, it's placement close to mines. I'm like, this is where I want to go. This is what I want to do. And so far it's worked out pretty well for me. I've just been passionate about it ever since I honestly can remember. So, but especially that book, that was really a big turning point for me. As cliche of a story as it is, that's what really kind of sold me, I guess, into physics. So
I'm super impressed as a 9 or 10-year-old that you were you take that book, and I mean, I think I was still learning how to
read.
Yeah.
Baby's first quantum mechanics.
Yeah.
You like science.
Yeah.
Oh, and then it's my turn.
Yeah.
So I'll have to play the nerd card here. My passion growing up was always Star Trek. So I was growing up when, Next Generation, Deep Space Nine, Voyager were still like on the air, and at the time I had a really good experience in like high school physics, and what I really liked about that was that it explained what was happening in the world around me. And I thought, okay, physics sounds like an interesting field to go into, because then I can look at things and pretty much understand or gauge how they work or what's going on sort of behind the scenes. And but the one drawback to that was I just ruined any kind of movie experience for myself, because I look at what Hollywood does for an action scene and I go, oh no, that's total BS. I'm one of those analyzers that just needs to keep his mouth shut during the movie.
So we're not taking you out for any movies. You gotta stay home.
I won't spoil it for you. I'll tell you after the fact.
And I'll sit through movies sometimes, just roll my eyes like, oh, it wasn't that hard, but okay, I guess. But I think The Martian did a pretty good job for the most part. It's one of the
there's
more respectable ones.
There's only like one or two things in there that were wrong that I could pick up on.
Yeah, that and Interstellar, but besides that.
Matt hasn't seen any of these movies. Cool. I have though. So
Matt,
I like Star Trek.
Okay.
Yeah, I used to watch it with my dad.
Which one?
No, the original ones. the
Matt
ones with Captain Kirk.
True fan.
That's where I draw the line. I can't watch the original series. It's just too bad. I start with the movies and then go on.
Work away.
I've never seen Star Trek, so
I already know that I don't even try to match wits with the physics community. Actually, at the cultural etiquette dinner, I think it was 2 years ago, when we were mingling, I went to one of the tables, and somehow the physics students managed to collaborate to get to the same table, so they didn't have to talk to anyone else. And they were arguing about a movie and how unrealistic it was.
Oh my gosh, that's great.
It was nothing to do with it. I'll tell you what, that's something that I am impressed by with our physics students, and certainly not only our physics students, our metallurgical engineering students. Some of these majors that you just people don't usually just go to college and end up in one of those majors. It was a very targeted, I want to do this major and then figure out the school. It's not like, I think I want to go to college and I'll just find a degree to do. I don't think. Maybe you've met some of those.
Well, I mean, we have a handful of students that will come in that are undecided, and that's okay, because your first couple of years here are going to be fulfilling gen eds, and you kind of get a taste of your physics, chemistry, math, and you might have a better idea of where you want to go with things. That's also the nice thing about our student orgs and the student org fair is you can join one of these orgs, and it has people that are in these degree programs, and they can tell you what they're going through, and if they're happy with it, if it's what they expected, or if it's different, and that could be a good thing, could be a bad thing, and we have students that'll sign up for physics, and they decide after a little while, well, maybe this isn't for me, and they'll switch to another major. But then we have the opposite that happens. There are students that are pursuing a degree in another department, and they're like, no, I think I want to switch to physics. So,
yeah.
So what's the best way for those listeners out there that want to connect with you guys? What's the best way for them to connect with SPS? Like students, different community groups.
We can plug our weekly meetings.
Yeah, I would
plug it. Plug it in.
Yeah, I would just say show up to one of our meetings. It's usually for a lot of fun. There's a lot of fun banter. It's pretty informal. It's Mondays at 5 in EEP 208. Come join. It'll be great. We'll have a poll where we can fiercely debate how to write different Greek letters or anything else. And there's plenty of fun things that may not be specifically physics, like directly physics related, that we do that make it fun. So if you're kind of on the fence, I would just say go for it. I mean, that's kind of my life motto, regardless. If you're on the fence, just go for it. But especially with this, because there's a lot of good things that can come out of this, even if you decide not to go with physics, if you still want to come to SPS.
Yeah. And they can email me directly if they want. They can email Sam. We do advertise the events that we have, but those are mostly in-house to the people that are already signed up for membership. But we also encourage everyone that comes to our socials, hey, if you want to bring a friend or something, do that. And we've picked up a number of additional members that way. But we also do that just to make sure that everybody feels comfortable in coming to a new group that might be full of a bunch of strangers. If you have somebody that coming with you, and then you make a couple more friends and stuff.
And what percentage of your group roughly is not a physics major?
Maybe if we look at the big list, it could be over 50%. But as far as the actual week to week involved members, it's probably 75%. Are actual physics majors.
I think that's pretty cool that you attract so many students that aren't majoring in physics to the Society of Physics Students.
Yeah, and our socials are probably in between those two metrics somewhere. So it's a non-zero amount that are non-physics. So, and
everybody has to take physics, so technically everyone is a physics student. They're just not a physics major. So
we stand corrected.
Yes.
My mistake.
We have to be all inclusive as a student organization. Everyone is welcome.
Wow. Just physics 101. What physics does everybody have to take?
Matt's like physics 101.
Close, 211.
Yeah, same thing.
What, 207 next year?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
that's a different talk.
A less fun talk, yeah.
okay.
Okay, I know this is a little off topic, but I was so curious to ask both of you. What is a commonly held belief in physics or in your field that you passionately disagree with? Or maybe like a misnomer.
I guess one that it's kind of adjacent to that. I feel like a lot of outsiders kind of equate us to people from the Big Bang Theory. And I just cannot say, and there's a lot of physics
I'm going to
majors
scratch my next
yeah.
one.
I'll just say, like, a lot of other physics majors agree with me, just like how much we just hate that stereotype so much. You know, they're like, oh, you're like Sheldon Cooper. It's like, no, please never say that again. Like, it just hurts, you know? Like, I mean, sure, we might be a little awkward and stuff sometimes. We're not like that, I guess, you know? I mean, everybody's a little awkward sometimes, but we're social people. We can carry ourselves in conversations. We can, not just be talking about science or math or things like that. So I think that's kind of one of the misnomers of physics is we're not all like the Big Bang Theory, and a lot of us actually, I guess, don't like being compared to that. But I think Mike might disagree a little bit because I know he likes the show. I can't watch it, but
as you're saying this, I'm looking at Mike's shirt that says, "Of course, I talk to myself. Sometimes I need expert advice."
That's something Sheldon once said.
Exactly. So maybe we differ on that, but I know a lot of the students are like, no, don't say that. So.
So could you repeat the question again?
Yeah, what's a commonly held belief about your field that you passionately disagree with? I feel like it's a very broad question.
Well, a lot of people forget that physics is like the foundation science that everything else is built off of. The only other thing that's more foundational is mathematics, and you take math, you apply it to the real world through physics, and from there you start to explain everything else: chemistry, electricity, engineering, you name it. That's why everybody has to take physics 1, so that they have that foundational understanding of what's going on. But then they'll continue on into their own degree programs doing what they're doing, thinking, oh, don't need physics, when actually everything they're doing is based off of physics. And in relation to that, there are a lot of people that think, oh, well, there's no jobs for physicists out there. If you go to the American Physical Society's website, which is an umbrella organization for other organizations like SPS or American Chemical Society, different honor societies, they have a list of companies within the continental U.S. within the last 10 years that have hired physics majors, and it is over 1,000 different companies from every walk of life that you can think of. There are video game designers, there's research and development firms, there's Wall Street firms. That one usually really surprises people. But with Wall Street, you need people that understand risk assessment and things of that nature, and you're starting to get up into some pretty complex mathematics, and a lot of that stuff and data analysis is taught in physics. Where you choose to apply that knowledge is really unlimited. The only problem is that you don't see jobs with the word physics in it. They're eventually going to be like, scientist or technician or engineer but it's very easy for someone with a background in physics to apply themselves to a more specialized field and still excel in what they're doing.
I think medical physics is one thing you kind of jumped over there. That's a booming field right now. It isn't super highlighted here, but we do have, I think, 1 or 2 students who are going for a medical physics route where, like, you only get maybe a master's, but then you help with a lot of, like, say, chemotherapy, stuff of that nature, where you're more, like, patient involved, or you might be working on the equipment related in delivering kind of medication or, treatment, where that's just a booming field right now that pays very well. I'm a little jealous I didn't take that path, but that's okay. So it's huge in the next probably 10 years or so. Yeah.
Yeah, just from our data alone, physics, so any major that has less than 5 graduates that go into industry doesn't get their salary posted just because it can be so skewed. With that said, physics routinely has one of the highest starting salaries. It just doesn't get advertised because it's usually a very small sample size, and we want to protect the info somebody gives us, but it's very high. I had a friend that physics major went to work for Microsoft right after college, and she's continued to just climb the ranks within that company.
Yeah, we had one of our recent graduates within the last 3 years working for Microsoft. We've had a couple that go off to Los Alamos, one to Google, Collins Aerospace. I mean, these are big names with big salaries, and so the students that we have and the education that we're putting out, they're able to do just about anything they want to do.
Yeah. And that combined, the great education combined with SPS or any extracurricular activity.
Yeah, I think it's a really good point that you bring up that physics can go into so many different industries, because I think from maybe face value, and I'm just thinking this out loud, maybe people just think, oh, you're just going to be a physicist, you're just going to be a scientist. Like, there's only one path forward. So I think that's really important to bring up, of all the different avenues they can take.
Well, I can think of worse things than working a mile underground on a potentially Nobel Prize winning experiment.
Yeah, multiple Nobel Prize. Yeah.
It's a different kind of commute. Having a 10-minute elevator ride every morning.
It's great. I only have to wake up at 5:30 and travel an hour in the morning to make the 7:30 cage underground, but it's worth it. So I guess kind of going back to like misnomers and stuff, I think a lot of people paint physicists or scientists in general as like these people in a lab wearing a white coat with a clipboard. I've never seen one of those yet. So you wear a lot of different hats depending on where you go in physics for sure. So
that's interesting you bring it up, because I remember specifically in 6th grade we were asked to like draw a scientist, and I totally drew one with like lab coat, crazy hair, that type of thing. So
well, Sam's hat is a hairnet because he has to work in a clean room environment. So
it's a hairnet, then a hard hat, and then safety goggles and everything. So yeah, once I'm in the lab, you can't even recognize me. I just have a full suit of just to protect the equipment from me, essentially, or like any dust coming off of me. So,
And Sam, so you're working at SURF right now.
Yes.
Can you talk a little and lean into the microphone for us?
Yeah.
Can you talk more about that?
Yeah. So I started working with the Majorana demonstrator back last January. So I've been on this for a little over a year now, and frankly, it's been the best research experience I've had here at Mines so far. I worked adjacent to the LZ dark matter detector, which is also at SURF, but that was just more so coding stuff here on the surface. But now that I'm actually underground and actually at the site with all the different experiments and stuff going on, you meet so many different people, so many different backgrounds, who might not even be the scientists, whether you have the custodians that help keep the facilities clean so the equipment can run correctly, or different scientists from different countries who are working on different projects. It's just an amazing time. It doesn't feel like you're underground, which is kind of funny. There's just no windows, just rock walls instead of like I guess normal walls, I guess. But besides that, I could not think of what. Yeah. Anyway, drywall. There we go.
Yeah.
But besides
rock wall, drywall, same
rock
thing.
wall. Yeah, it's just concrete, really. Just but you can kind of see the frame holding up the cave and everything. But it's a very, very unique experience. Normally we take the Yates shaft down, and to lubricate like all the wiring for it, you have to have water dripping down on it to keep it lubricated instead of oil. So you get rained on in the morning and an afternoon coming back up. So by the time you're done, you're just drenched. You just want to go home, but you at least had a productive day's work underground. It's just a great place. I would definitely recommend getting a tour if you ever can, which SPS may or may not be doing that this spring yet. We don't know yet. So
yeah, depending on what their schedule is, because they're very busy right now with excavation and doing repairs to one of the shafts. But whenever we can, we try to get our student members for SPS and physics to actually go down to the 4850 level and see what's going on down there. And it always surprises me that every time I take a group of students down there, within about a year and a half to 2 years, I'll go down into the mine again and I see the same students working on something down there.
Yeah.
That and you're, you might just run into a famous person down there. It's kind of a draw, big time senators and governors and
Sheldon Cooper.
Yeah. Well, I think we even had Buzz Aldrin down there at one point.
Yep.
Really?
Many years ago, before I was.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, Buzz Aldrin, Mark Zuckerberg was down there once, and yeah,
That's cool. Well, if there's ever room on that tour, I know I got an invite once, but keep us in mind.
Sure.
We'll bring our raincoats.
Yes.
Yep.
No,
I'll bring my white coat.
They provide you with overalls and a trash bag for your
Perfect.
like
For your
backpack
commute, for our commute.
and computer. Yeah.
So if I show up in a white coat and a calculator and lab goggles, am I gonna?
We're gonna take a picture
gonna
and then we're just gonna.
You're actually gonna stand out because everybody's just
Okay.
unless you're going into a clean room with a bunny suit on.
Yep.
Is that what they call those white suits? Bunny suits.
I guess I've never heard that, but I'll go. With
I've
it.
heard
Sure.
that.
Cool.
I've heard like some people call them hazmat suits.
Mm-hmm.
I guess it depends on the level of cleanliness you need from your clean room. But
Yeah.
what do you call them?
Just PPE, personal protective equipment, I guess. Our clean room suits is what we always call them, because it's just so weird, because you'll put on mining gear, you'll put on a hard hat with a lantern, mining overalls, boots, walk through. Well, right now we have to walk about a kilometer-ish underground to go from, since one of the main shafts is out, we have to take a different one. We actually had to walk by the dune excavation. We get to kind of get a sneak peek every day.
That's cool.
Which is cool. And then, we go through a transition room where we take all that off. We put on our actual clean shoes. We have to have a whole different pair of shoes underground just for those.
Mm-hmm.
And then you wipe down all of your stuff and boom, you're in like kind of a cleanish place. But then for my Irana specifically that I'm with, you have to put on like the full, I guess, bunny suit that Mike said. And the only skin on your body that's showing is maybe just above the bridge of your nose right here.
Really?
Because everything else is just covered up. You have between 2 and 4 layers of gloves on, depending what you're doing.
Oh, wow.
It gets kind of hot and sweaty sometimes,
Yeah.
but it's fun. It's just weird going from a mine to one of the cleanest places on the planet. So,
Which you would, I guess, I wouldn't expect would be underground.
yeah,
I know. I'm fascinated. I wouldn't. That's great.
Mhm.
Well, any closing thoughts you want to impart on our hundreds of listeners?
If you're remotely interested in physics, definitely just show up to SPS. Even if you're not related or interested in physics, come to SPS. We do a lot of fun things that are at least STEM related, which is good for a STEM campus, and it's more fun than anything. So if you want to make new friends, make new connections, just show up. We'll have some food for you. So,
Yep. Fun with physics.
yeah, that's way to put it.
There we go. Fun with physics.
Yeah.
All right. Well,
That'll be
thank
the
you
new
guys.
podcast.
Yes.
Yeah,
Thank
we
you so
really
much.
appreciate you
Yeah.
guys coming.
Thank you very much.